I'm Maya. I'll never forget the look on Derek's face. He was standing at the front of the company-wide meeting, 200 employees, every executive, even some of our biggest clients, about to receive an award for visionary leadership based on my work. And that's when the screen behind him flickered. His presentation disappeared, and my face appeared instead, along with every single email, every timestamp, every piece of evidence proving that he didn't create a single pixel of the project he was being celebrated for. His smile froze, his hands started shaking, and as 200 people turned to stare at him in stunned silence, I watched the exact moment he realized his entire career was over. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got here, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every delicious detail of how this man went from company darling to industry pariah in less than an hour. My name is Maya, and when this whole nightmare started, I was 28 years old, working as a senior graphic designer at a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago called Vertex Creative. It was one of those companies that had grown just enough to have real corporate structure, but still liked to pretend it was a scrappy startup. Open floor plan, ping-pong table nobody used, a CEO who insisted everyone call him by his first name, even though he made decisions that affected hundreds of families without batting an eye. I'd been there for 5 years, working my way up from a nervous junior designer with imposter syndrome to one of the most reliable creative leads in the building. My portfolio had won industry recognition. My campaigns had generated millions for clients. I wasn't just good at my job, I was exceptional at it. But I had a fatal flaw: I was quiet. I didn't play office politics. I didn't schmooze with executives at happy hours. I just did my work, did it brilliantly, and assumed that would be enough. Enter Derek Mitchell. Derek was my direct supervisor, a polished, charming man in his mid-40s who had been with Vertex for over a decade. He had silver-streaked hair that he clearly styled every morning. A collection of designer watches he liked to casually mention were gifts from grateful clients, and the kind of confident charisma that made upper management absolutely adore him. The first time I worked under Derek, I genuinely thought I'd lucked out. He called me talented in team meetings. He told me I had executive potential. He said things like, "Maya, stick with me and I'll make sure you go places." I believed him. What an idiot I was. See, over the next 2 years I started noticing things, small things at first. Things I tried to explain away because I didn't want to believe the truth. Whenever I pitched an idea in a brainstorm, Derek would nod thoughtfully, stroke his chin and say something like, "Interesting concept, let me think on that." Then, a week later, I'd hear him presenting that exact same idea to leadership, with zero mention of where it came from. Whenever I sent him drafts for feedback, he'd respond with one-word replies. "Good, fine, continue." But then those same drafts would appear in client presentations with his name prominently attached. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe this was just how corporate hierarchies worked. Maybe I was too sensitive. My co-worker Priya didn't buy that for a second. Priya Sharma was a UX designer 2 years younger than me, with sharp instincts and absolutely zero tolerance for workplace manipulation. She'd been watching Derek for months, and she did not like what she saw. "Maya, that man is a vampire," she told me one afternoon in the break room, keeping her voice low. An energy vampire, a credit vampire, a whole ecosystem of vampires wearing a suit and a fake smile. I laughed nervously. That's a little dramatic. "Is it?" She raised an eyebrow. "Tell me one major project where Derek actually did the creative work himself." "One, I'll wait." I opened my mouth. Closed it, tried to think. "Nothing." "Exactly," Priya said. "He's a manager who doesn't manage, and a creative director who doesn't create. He just takes, and he's been taken from you for 2 years. So what am I supposed to do about it?" Priya leaned forward, her eyes intense. "You start documenting everything, every single thing. Emails, drafts, timestamps, file versions, all of it. Because one day, Maya, he's going to go too far, and when he does, you're either going to have ammunition, or you're going to have nothing but your word against his. Guess which one wins in corporate?" I wanted to dismiss her as paranoid, but something in her voice made me listen. That night, Maya started a folder on my personal cloud drive. I called it Insurance, and I began saving copies of everything I sent Derek. Every progress report, every draft, every email, no matter how small. At the time, I thought I was being silly, overcautious. I had no idea I was building the weapon that would destroy him. 3 months after Priya's warning, the opportunity of a lifetime dropped into my lap. Vertex was undergoing a complete company rebrand. New visual identity, new logo, new everything. It was a massive initiative, the kind of project that could define someone's career. Leadership wanted internal teams to pitch concepts before they considered bringing in outside agencies. Derek called me into his office with that smile of his, the one that never quite reached his eyes. "Maya," he said, leaning back in his expensive ergonomic chair, "I want you to lead this. The rebrand pitch, full creative control. This is your chance to really shine." My heart leaped. After years of invisible contributions, finally a spotlight. "I won't let you down," I said. "I know you won't." His smile widened. "I believe in you, Maya." This is going to be big for both of us. Both of us. I should have heard the warning in those words. For the next 2 months, I gave that project everything I had. I'm talking 60-hour weeks, weekends at my apartment with 3 monitors running. I did competitive analysis on every major brand in our industry. I researched colour psychology, typography trends, motion graphics techniques. I created a complete brand book from scratch, logo variations, visual hierarchy, photography guidelines, the works. Every Friday I sent Derek detailed progress reports with attachments. Every draft, every revision, every research document. His replies were always the same. "Great, keep going." "Looks good." I took those as approval. I should have taken them as evidence that he wasn't contributing a single original thought. But I was too busy being excited about finally getting recognition for my work. Priya kept checking in. "You're still saving everything, right?" "Every single thing," I assured her. "Timestamps, version history, all of it. Good." She looked worried. "I don't trust him, Maya. Something feels off." 2 weeks before the pitch, Derek called me into his office again. "Great news," he said, beaming. "The pitch is scheduled, Thursday at 10 a.m. Executive conference room. The CEO will be there, the entire C-suite, even some board members." My heart was pounding. "I've been rehearsing my presentation. I was thinking I'd start with the brand strategy overview then." Derek held up a hand. "Actually, I'm going to handle the presentation." The words didn't compute at first. "What?" "It's a high-stakes environment," he said smoothly, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. "These executives know me, they trust me. I'll present the concepts, and afterward, if there are questions, I might bring you in for the technical details." "But," my voice cracked. "Derek, I created everything. This is my project." "And you'll be credited for that," he assured me. "But the face of the pitch needs to be someone with executive presence. Someone who can handle the pressure. You understand?" I didn't understand. Not at all. But I was so conditioned to be accommodating, so terrified of being labelled difficult, that I heard myself saying the words I would later regret more than anything. "Okay. If you think that's best." Derek's smile turned triumphant for just a split second before he smoothed it back into something warmer. "I knew you'd understand. That's why you're such a valuable team player, Maya." I left his office feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. But I told myself it would be okay. He said I'd be credited. He said I'd be brought in afterward. Maybe this was just how things worked at the executive level. The day of the pitch arrived. I wore my best professional outfit, a navy blazer, pressed slacks, my most confident shoes. I showed up to the office at 9:30, ready to at least be in the room for my own presentation. At 9:55, I walked up to the executive conference room. The door was closed. Through the glass, I could see Derek standing at the front, gesturing at a screen. My slides, my designs, my 2 months of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. I reached for the door handle, locked. My hand just stayed there, frozen on the handle as I watched through the glass. The CEO was nodding approvingly. Board members were leaning forward with interest. And Derek. Derek was pointing at my colour palette, my logo concepts, my carefully crafted brand story, speaking with animated passion about work he hadn't contributed a single idea to. He never looked toward the door, not once. I stood there for what felt like hours. In reality, it was probably 3 minutes before I managed to make my legs move, to walk away before anyone saw me standing there like a pathetic ghost outside my own presentation. Priya found me in the stairwell 20 minutes later, sitting on the cold concrete steps, staring at nothing. "Maya? Oh my God, what happened?" I couldn't even speak at first. I just looked up at her and she knew. She knew immediately. He locked you out. It wasn't a question. I nodded. That absolute sociopath. Priya sat down next to me and grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. Maya, listen to me. Please tell me you have everything documented. Something in my chest shifted. The devastation was still there, but underneath it something else was forming. Something colder, harder. I have everything, I whispered. Every email, every timestamp. Every version of every file. His name? Isn't on any of it. Priya's eyes lit up with something that looked almost predatory. Then we've got him, but we have to be smart about this. You can't just accuse him. They'll dismiss you as a bitter employee. We need to go through proper channels. We need to make this airtight. HR? I asked. HR is step one. But Maya, Priya leaned in, lowering her voice. I have an idea, something bigger. Something that will make sure he can never do this to anyone ever again. I looked at her. What are you thinking? The company is planning a celebration event for the rebrand launch, right? A big presentation to the whole company, plus clients and partners. I nodded slowly. Next month, it's going to be a huge thing. Derek is supposed to present the final brand package and... Oh God! Let me guess. He's receiving some kind of recognition. The CEO mentioned an Innovation Leadership Award for whoever led the rebrand. The realization hit me like ice water. He's going to accept an award for my work. In front of the entire company. Priya's smile was sharp as a blade. Then that's when we strike. The next 4 weeks were the most calculated of my entire life. Priya and I met in secret. Coffee shops, her apartment, anywhere we wouldn't be overheard. We planned everything with military precision. Step 1. Document everything beyond any shadow of doubt. I spent 3 nights creating a comprehensive evidence package. Every email I'd ever sent Derek about the rebrand, with his dismissive one-word replies. Every file with my creation timestamp and login credentials. A detailed version history showing the evolution of my work, with not a single contribution from Derek. Screenshots of our company's project management system, clearly displaying that I was the sole contributor to every deliverable. I created a timeline. I created comparison documents. I cross-referenced everything until the evidence was so overwhelming that no reasonable person could deny it. Step 2. Go to HR strategically. 3 weeks before the company event, I walked into Sandra Liu's office. Sandra was the HR director, a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had a reputation for actually caring about doing the right thing. I need to report workplace misconduct, I told her, and I have extensive documentation. For 2 hours, I walked Sandra through everything. By the end, her expression had shifted from professional neutrality to barely concealed fury. This is serious, she said, very serious. Derek Mitchell has been with this company for 12 years. I know, and I believe this is a pattern of behaviour, not an isolated incident. Sandra's eyes narrowed. What makes you say that? Because I'm not the first person he's done this to. I took a deep breath. I've been quietly talking to other team members, former employees. 3 other people have told me similar stories. Derek taking credit for their work, blocking them from recognition, even pushing some of them out of the company when they tried to speak up. Sandra leaned forward. Do these people have documentation? Some of them do. Not as comprehensive as mine, but enough to establish a pattern. Can you give me their names? I hesitated. They're scared, Sandra. They've seen what happens to people who challenge Derek. But if there's a formal investigation, if they know they're not alone, I think they'll come forward. Sandra was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open a formal investigation into Derek Mitchell's conduct. I'm going to review your documentation, pull the original files from the presentation, and reach out to the individuals you've mentioned. This is going to take some time. The company celebration event is in 3 weeks, I said carefully. Derek is supposed to receive a leadership award for the rebrand. Sandra's expression hardened. I'm aware. If he receives that award, if he stands up in front of the whole company and accepts recognition for work he stole, it's going to be a lot harder to undo the damage. I understand your concern, Maya, but these things take time to do properly. I can't make any promises about the timeline. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. I understand. But inside, I was already thinking about step 3. Because Priya and I hadn't just planned to go to HR. We'd planned for every contingency. Over the next 2 weeks, the investigation quietly proceeded. Sandra interviewed me multiple times. She pulled files, cross-referenced timestamps, and dug into the metadata of every presentation Derek had given over the past 3 years. And then something beautiful happened. The other victims started coming forward. First it was Marcus, a former designer who'd left the company 2 years ago after Derek took credit for a major client campaign. Then Jenny, from the content team, who'd had an entire content strategy stolen from her. Then David, a junior designer who'd been pushed out after trying to complain about Derek's behaviour to his manager, who happened to be Derek's golf buddy. One by one, the stories piled up. The pattern became undeniable. Sandra called me into her office 3 days before the company event, looking exhausted but grimly satisfied. "The investigation has concluded," she said. "The evidence is overwhelming. Derek Mitchell has been systematically misappropriating team members' work for at least 5 years. We've identified at least 7 documented instances, including yours." My heart was pounding. What happens now? "That's what I need to discuss with you." Sandra folded her hands on her desk. "HR and legal have reviewed everything. Derek is going to be terminated. That's not in question. But the how is still being debated." "The how?" "Some members of leadership want to handle this quietly. Ask for his resignation. Let him leave with some dignity. Avoid any public embarrassment for the company." My stomach dropped. "You can't be serious." "I'm telling you what's being discussed, but..." Sandra paused, a slight smile crossing her face. "I've been pushing for an alternative approach, one that sends a very clear message about Vertex's values and gives proper credit where it's been denied for years." "What kind of alternative?" Sandra leaned back in her chair. "The company celebration event. Derek is still scheduled to receive that leadership award. What if, instead of cancelling the event or the award, we simply changed who presents it and who receives it?" I stared at her. "You want to expose him at the event? I want to correct the record at the event. Publicly, with the CEO's full support. Derek would be informed that morning that the award is being revoked due to the investigation findings. He'd still be asked to attend the event, but the presentation would look very different than he's expecting. He'd never agree to that. He won't have a choice. The alternative is immediate termination with cause, and a very unflattering reference for any future employer." Sandra's smile sharpened. "I think he'll show up." I sat there, processing what she was telling me. This was bigger than anything I'd imagined. This wasn't just getting credit for my work. This was Derek being exposed in front of the entire company, every client, every partner. "I'm in," I said. The day of the company celebration arrived. The event was held in the grand ballroom of a hotel downtown. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, 200 employees plus clients and industry partners. A huge screen at the front displayed the new Vertex branding, my branding, in gorgeous animated glory. I arrived early, wearing a red dress I'd bought specifically for this occasion. Priya was with me, practically vibrating with anticipation. "You nervous?" she asked. Terrified, I admitted. "But also, ready?" Derek was already there when I walked in. He was standing near the stage, shaking hands with executives, laughing at jokes, completely in his element. He was wearing his most expensive suit and his smuggest smile. He saw me across the room and nodded with exaggerated graciousness, like a king acknowledging a peasant. He had no idea what was coming. The CEO, a man named Thomas Chen, took the stage at exactly 7 p.m. Something important. The room grew quiet. Derek straightened up near the stage, adjusting his tie, probably thinking this was his introduction. Over the past few weeks, a serious matter was brought to our attention regarding the creation of this rebrand project. After a thorough investigation by our HR department, we discovered that the work we're celebrating tonight was not created by the person originally credited. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Derek's smile flickered. The complete brand identity you see around you tonight, the logo, the visual system, the brand strategy, was created entirely by one of our senior designers, Maya Chen. The screen behind Thomas lit up with a new slide. My name, my photo, and beneath it, lead designer and creator of the Vertex rebrand. I heard gasps, I saw heads turning, and I saw Derek's face drain of all colour. "Maya, would you please join me on stage?" My legs were shaking as I walked up those steps, but I held my head high. When I reached the podium, Thomas handed me the microphone. "Maya, I want to personally apologise to you on behalf of the company," Thomas said, his voice carrying through the room. Your work was exceptional. The way it was presented to leadership initially was a misrepresentation that we deeply regret. Tonight, we're correcting that record. I took the microphone, my heart hammering. Thank you, Thomas. I turned to face the audience, 200 pairs of eyes staring at me, including Derek's, which had gone from shocked to panicked. I created this rebrand because I believe in this company and the people who work here, I said, keeping my voice steady. Every logo concept, every colour choice, every page of the brand guidelines came from research, passion, and many, many late nights. I'm proud of this work, and I'm grateful to finally be able to stand behind it with my name attached. Applause erupted through the room, real, genuine applause. I saw colleagues standing, saw clients nodding with respect, saw Priya in the back wiping tears from her eyes. But I wasn't done. I also want to acknowledge that I'm not alone, I continued. Over the past few weeks, several other team members came forward with similar experiences of having their contributions misattributed. This isn't just about me. It's about creating a workplace where everyone's work is valued and credited honestly. The applause grew louder, and in my peripheral vision, I saw Derek trying to edge toward the exit. He didn't make it. Sandra intercepted him at the door, accompanied by 2 members of security. The entire room watched as he was quietly escorted out, his face a mask of humiliation and fury. Now, Thomas said, reclaiming the microphone with a warm smile, I believe we have an award to present. Maya, this was originally designated as a Leadership Innovation Award, but we've made a small modification. He reached behind the podium and pulled out a crystal award, newly engraved. Maya Chen, creator and visionary of the Vertex rebrand. The applause was thunderous, standing ovation. I held that award in my hands, feeling its weight, letting the moment wash over me. I did it, I thought. I actually did it. After the ceremony, I was swarmed by colleagues offering congratulations, by executives wanting to shake my hand, by clients expressing their admiration for my work. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. But the best moment came about an hour later. I stepped outside for some air and found Derek standing near the parking garage, looking like he'd aged 10 years in one night. His tie was loosened, his hair dishevelled, and his eyes were red. He saw me and actually walked toward me. Maya, his voice cracked. You have to understand. I was going to credit you. No, you weren't, I said calmly. You were going to accept that award, shake hands with the CEO, and continue building your career on the backs of people more talented than you. Just like you've been doing for years. I have a family, kids. If you could just talk to HR, tell them I'm sorry, maybe they could... Derek. I stepped closer, looking him directly in the eyes. I spent 2 months on that project. 60-hour weeks, weekends. I put my heart and soul into that work, and you locked me out of the room while you presented it as your own. You didn't just steal my work. You tried to steal my future. His face crumpled. Please. I'll do anything. I'll apologise publicly, It's too late for that. I turned to walk back inside, then paused. Oh, and Derek. I heard that Marcus, Jenny and David all submitted statements to HR. They're considering whether what you did rises to the level of fraud. You might want to talk to a lawyer. I left him standing there in the parking garage, watching everything he'd built crumble to dust. The fallout for Derek was swift and devastating. He was terminated for cause the very next morning, with no severance and no positive reference. Within days, word spread through the industry about what had happened, not just from the company event, but from former colleagues who'd spent years being victimised by him and finally felt safe to speak. His LinkedIn became a ghost town. His professional network evaporated. Last I heard, he was trying to reinvent himself as a career consultant in a different city, but his reputation had followed him. In our industry, word travels fast. Nobody wanted to hire the guy who got publicly exposed for systematic theft at a company event. As for me, my career took off like a rocket. 2 weeks after the event, I was promoted to creative director, Derek's old position, ironically enough. 3 months later, I was leading our biggest client account, with a team of designers who actually got credit for their work because I made damn sure of it. I instituted new policies for our department, clear attribution on all projects, collaborative reviews, where everyone's contributions were documented, a culture where junior designers felt safe speaking up about their work. I became the kind of leader I'd always wished I had. And the colleagues who came forward, Marcus, Jenny, David and others, Each received personal apologies from the company, along with retroactive recognition for their contributions. Some of them got promotions, others got opportunities they'd been denied for years. 1 year after Derek's downfall, I received an email from a name I didn't recognise. It turned out to be from a young designer at another company, someone who'd heard my story through industry circles. "I just wanted to thank you," she wrote. "I've been dealing with a similar situation with my manager. He takes credit for everything I do. I was about to give up and quit. But then I heard about what you did, and I started documenting everything. Last week, I went to HR with a folder full of evidence. My manager is under investigation. You inspired me to fight back. Thank you for being brave." I sat at my desk, reading that email over and over, crying quietly at my computer. That's the real revenge, not just destroying Derek's career, though don't get me wrong, that was satisfying as hell. The real victory is knowing that what I did mattered beyond my own story. That standing up for myself created a ripple effect that helped other people find their own courage. Here's what I learned through all of this. Document everything. I cannot stress this enough. Every email, every draft, every timestamp. In a corporate environment, your word means nothing without proof. Priya saved my career when she told me to start that folder. Find your allies. I couldn't have done this alone. Priya was my rock, my strategist, my reality check when I doubted myself. The other victims who came forward gave the investigation the weight it needed. You are not as alone as you think. The quiet ones are watching. Derek thought he was getting away with it because nobody challenged him directly. He had no idea that 6 people were silently cataloguing every stolen idea, every blocked promotion, every lie. When the dam finally broke, it wasn't a trickle. It was a flood. Standing up for yourself isn't just about you. Every time someone lets a bully or a thief get away with their behaviour, it emboldens them to victimise more people. When I spoke up, I didn't just save myself. I opened the door for everyone else Derek had hurt. And finally, the best revenge is making sure they can never do it again. Derek didn't just lose his job. He lost his reputation. He lost his network. He lost the ability to climb the ladder on other people's backs. Every time someone Googles his name, the story comes up. That's not cruelty, that's justice, as for me. I'm sitting in my corner office right now, looking out at the city skyline, thinking about how different my life is from the woman who stood frozen outside that locked conference room 2 years ago. She thought she had to be quiet to be successful. She thought being a team player meant letting people walk all over her. She thought if she just worked hard enough, fairness would somehow find her. She was wrong about all of it, but she learned and she fought back. And she won. If you're in a situation like mine was, if someone is stealing your work, blocking your path, taking credit for your genius while you stay silent in the shadows, I want you to hear this. You deserve to be seen. Your work has value, and you have more power than you realise. Start documenting. Find your allies, choose your moment, and when that moment comes, don't hold back. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone steal credit for your work? A boss, a co-worker, maybe even a friend who passed off your ideas as their own? What did you do about it? Or if you didn't do anything at the time, what would you do differently now that you've heard my story? Drop your experiences in the comments. I genuinely read every single one, and your story might inspire someone else to find their courage. If this video resonated with you, smash that like button. It really helps more people find these stories and realise they're not alone. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss the next Karma story. I post new videos every week about real-life revenge, workplace justice, and the sweet, sweet satisfaction of watching bad people face consequences. Thank you for watching until the end. I appreciate every single one of you. Stay strong, document everything, and remember, the best revenge is living your truth while they watch their lies fall apart. I'll see you in the next one.